Sir, my vote is for Fatma Zehra's submission. Fatma Zehra's submission.
So I'm going through them too.
Hello and welcome everyone for another series today. We're going to be talking about a very interesting topic. And the topic I think is near dear to all of us, and especially it's dear to parents um, who have kids, teens, young kids, and everyone. And it's about video gaming, and it's also about um, phones and stuff. For that reason, we had to bring a very special guest. We have we have brought Miss Abida Minhas. Miss Minhas, is she on? So Miss Minhas is actually the founder of psychologist counselor. She in her practice, which is called the Impact Counselor, is supervising about she's a group of 17 people, and where she supervises psychologists as well. So her psychologist aspect of it is very, very important. She is also EMDR trained. So we'll have Miss Minhas come on board. Let's meanwhile play the video. We were going to start off with playing a video for you guys.
So I got my first phone when I was around 15 years.
I got my first phone when I was 17.
I got my first phone when I was 15 years old.
I received my first phone at the age of 9.
What age did you get your first phone?
8.
My parents did not limit my use at all because technically I got it quite late. Usually kids around my age got it at around 11 to 12, which is honestly quite young.
My parents always noticed the phone when I was 17 or 18.
Yes, my parents closely monitored and regulated my phone at the age of 9.
Kind of, not that much. My father did.
Yes, I believe so. It became a mode of socializing in my school, and I also used it for studies.
I think this is a good age to have a phone. Obviously, you have many things to do on that phone, like homeworks and other things.
I believe I got it at the good time, perfect time, because 15 to 16 is the perfect age for a kid to get its privacy, because he's growing and he needs some privacy and interact with friends, social media.
It is fair to have a phone in that age if your study routine is fine.
Do you feel that it was fair to get phone in that age?
Yes.
Yes, probably parents should know more about the benefits of the phone. Obviously, our society is not that good or that aware about those phone benefits, but our parents should be aware about the benefits of the phone.
Parents should be educated in this regard, when to give the kid a phone and at what age. I think age around 16 or 15 is a good time to hand a kid their own phone, because that is the time they need to socialize, they need to interact with each other more as they're in the growing phase.
Parents should be educated for the beneficial of mobiles because we can find many apps and websites from where we can gain knowledge and study.
Yes, I think so. It's technology, it's not the Middle Ages.
So there's GTA, there's Fortnite, Call of Duty, but one that I used to play when I was growing up was Minecraft. I used to play it on my laptop, on my Xbox, and on the phone as well.
I played many games like Call of Duty and other games, many video games, but I mostly played PUBG Mobile.
I've enjoyed a lot of games. I've played GTA 5, Forza Horizon on Xbox, Call of Duty, Apex Legend, Fortnite, mobile games, or even when I was young, Roblox, Minecraft, a lot.
What is your favorite video game?
Call of Duty Mobile and Call of Duty Ghost on the Xbox 360.
Obviously, I enjoy the game because it also connects us to our other friends who are living in the other foreign countries like in Dubai or etc.
They're honestly quite fun with friends. I think why I enjoy these games particularly is because it's very enjoyable to play with friends.
How do you enjoy it?
It has guns, bullets.
I prefer both video games and physical sports because both give us mind refreshment and makes our mind smart.
Growing up, I used to play video games a lot. Did not actually play a lot of sports like that, but lately I've been more into sports. I mainly enjoy watching and playing cricket and table tennis.
I prefer both games, like physical and video games.
Do you prefer physical sports or video games?
Both are fine.
Parents will learning to play video games with their kids.
If they want to, yeah, sure, they could.
Yes, parents should learn to play video games with their kids because they can tell about realities and nature, the difference between realities and nature.
Absolutely not, because it's a kid's private time, and he can't really show his real self online and express himself. And what stays in the party should stay in the party. There is a lot of rage, funny moments which are private with his friends. It should never be public knowledge.
I think parents must play video games with their kids because eventually remove the gap between parents and the children, and it will create a more frank environment between parents and children.
Yes, I think parents should try to spend time with their kids on their video games. This way they can keep an eye on their kids or what type of games they are playing. And it also helps build a connection between the parents and their children, which increases the frankness between the family, which I think is a very good thing. So parents should try to spend a little time with their kids, especially on video games.
Can you refresh the software thing or will it mess it up? You can hear us.
Just gonna be back on line for a sec. Just a small glitch here in the studio. So just give us 1 second. That was actually a very excellent video presentation by the team. So good job. And they have very lots of opinions there. Excellent. So we're back online, and we're going to be talking a little bit about. This was one perspective from one group of people, and I want to say that perhaps a little bit different for the kids that are in U.S. and Texas, Miss Menas, because 35% of the kids are more than 35% of kids are right now playing games, and they've spent about over 5 hours or more. Can you hear us, Miss Menas?
Yes. Hey, Assalamu alaikum. How are
Hey,
you?
how are you? Thank you. Welcome.
I'm
coming
well,
on
thank
board.
you.
So what we're trying to see here is that I'll present a couple of little facts to you, and then we're going to get a little perspective, and then we'll talk a little bit more about stuff. Kids nowadays get interacted with phones and digital equipment at the age of 2 years. 90% of US kids are getting interacted very early on, and this 2 years. By age 6, 7, over 50% of them are playing video games. We say 35% of them are playing over 5 hours of gaming. The top games being Minecraft, Fortnite, Roblox. Fortnite has over 250 million viewers.
Okay.
Which is staggering, which I think it is. And to date, between the age of 6, 7, currently about 40% of kids are involved in some sort of sports, which I think is still good. And then the question comes, really, when there has been such a big paradigm shift in kids getting so much exposure to social media, are parents lagging behind? And the methods we're trying to deploy on the kids, are they going to work? And that's where the real question came up. So what sort of impact is gaming having, and iPhone and social media, for example, having on the kids? And then we'll answer the second question, are parents lagging behind? So Ms. Minhas, just give us just a little bit of an overview about what are you seeing in clinical practice, which is our interest really. And I know you do a lot of family psychotherapy, therapy, you specialize in that field. You got a, bless you, you got an excellent group of people. We actually did your intro before you just joined. And we told our viewers, mashallah, you have 17 people and you do supervise a lot of the counselors. And you're involved in the MAPS group. You founded it way back and you're actively involved, and your practice is impact counselors. So let me go back to the question again. First of all, what are you seeing a shift with these kids being exposed to iPhone and video games at an early age? The 2-3-year-olds and then the older teens. Teens, I'm sort of putting 10 years and above. Your thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, assalamu alaikum, and thank you for having me on. And one thing that I will tell you that, and thank you for the kind intro. I've been a therapist for about 15 years, and I would say that there is a big paradigm shift. I think a couple of the questions that are being asked is the shift that it has on the kids, and then are parents responding to it appropriately? So I'll answer the first question. One of the questions, which is it impacting the kids? Absolutely, it's impacting the kids. In fact, for context, Dr. Khan, I'll throw in a few of the statistics that I have that I share with parents, which is in the US, specifically the research, and in the Western countries, is kids between the ages of 5 and 8 spend at least 3 to 4 hours per day on a screen. And about 82 to 84% of the parents tested on a sample size are concerned about the usages of the amount of time that their kids spend on. It's, in my professional clinical opinion, is sometimes, and maybe in some cases, not always, every family has different values, but the truth is kids are being exposed to technology way too early. But maybe what we're not talking about is the parameters around technology, because technology is something has evolved, it will continue to evolve. We live in a tech age, but I don't think we have good regulations around technology. And for context, Dr. Khan, we're looking at children at the age of 2 to 3 that are being exposed to 3 to 4 hours on screens, yet we're expecting them to be preschoolers. So in the developmental term, the clinical developmental term, the psychosocial development of a 2-3-year-old is around the context of play and preschool years, and then we're exposing them to concepts like technology and how to use digital social media, or things that adults are doing from 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So psychosocially, children are mentally and emotionally and even verbally advancing where their brains are not being able to keep up with. So what I see that as a result of clinically is children who are exposed to things that they shouldn't be exposed to. Therefore, they have, 50-60% raise in anxiety and depression. They have lacking when it comes to academics because their focus and concentration is on their digital needs. And they're also conditioned in some ways to be able to have a quick response. It's kind of like the hamster wheel where they're looking for instant gratification much more quickly. I mean, we get frustrated if we're not, like in your case, logging onto a video quick enough. And we as adults have to practice patience and do some pausing and mindfulness. But, imagine a child who isn't, and their focus and concentration takes a different kind of consequence.
I have counter argument here, and sort of like we play the devil's
Please.
advocate on this side. A vast majority, parenting is very hard, right?
Absolutely.
Maya, we have both parents are working, busy schedules, no extended family system. Then they have kids, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old. Parents only have specific time. I have specific time. I cannot afford that extra time where I can sit, talk, extended period of time. I can do quality time, but I don't have that extra time. My point being, specifically for 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-olds, it's very easy for parents to give them the phone, get them distracted, then they can do the chores, i.e., they can eat, which is very, very important. They can finish their hygiene, toileting and stuff. Cleaning is the other, and then put them to bed. So why stop them from watching video games? Or not video games specifically, why just watch them from watching these shows? The kids want to see them. The game,
Right.
the TV series, in this case, a lot of 2, 3, 4-year-olds watch TV, Teletubbies, series like that. They get distracted. Why don't we learn them? Why don't we make sure they're learning, teaching them stuff, and at the same token, not take away their phone and come up with sort of like a balanced sort of area. We can do our chores in the interim, and the kids, meanwhile, can learn. So why prevent them from watching stuff on the phone?
Well, no, that's a fair question. And Dr. Khan, I never said anything about preventing children from
Sure.
being on digital because, like I said, that we are in a tech age and we are evolving in a very advanced way in the last 20 years. You're absolutely right. I think, with children being raised in a let's say nuclear family system, sometimes in a single family household or extended family not being close enough, or sometimes not nearby at all. Our family dynamics have changed and evolved in the last 20 years. So that's fair that, with that, human beings change and social cycle norms change. At the same time, if you think about a 2-year-old on a small screen very close, the medical model even tells us that is too close for their ocular vision development. That's not healthy when they're seeing all the stimulation so nearby. So I think parameters and boundaries around the digital age and what the substance and quality of programming that a child is watching and age appropriately will be very helpful. So I'll go back to what I know as a therapist, that developmentally that each human being goes through a lifespan, in clinical practices, that's how we look at human development, is that you've got the infancy years, you've got your preschool years, you've got your pre-adolescent years, and then adolescent years, and then into adulthood, to young adulthood, to adulthood. So, when you've got a preschool age child being exposed to things that are meant for an adult, think about the lack of collaboration that their mental model and their psychobiology is going through. You're exposing the brain to references, parameters, information that they're not really equipped for. I mean, the human brain in research study says that the human brain isn't fully developed until 25. So 20 years in, you're exposing a small preschool child into adult experiences.
So
with that, another statistic, which is between 8 and 16, most children who have a phone or have early references to digital technology have exposure to 90% of the times to pornography or unhealthy substances, or have had
So we're going to
experiences
go to that in a
cyberbullying.
second. We had a lot of questions on this, Minhouse, about the 2 to 4, 6-year-olds. Just a quick question on that. If I argue, give them controlled, these kids are going to grow up and are going to be exposed to the media and they're going to be exposed to this tech gaming so much that we cannot imagine. I can't even imagine how much exposure they're going
Absolutely.
to get. Why not prepare them? Question number one. And have you
Of
seen,
course.
is it harm? I know overdoing it is harmful. If we overdo, give them more than a couple of hours, let's say we strategically give the phone usage, not the phone usage, have them watch this media exposure for 2 to 3 hours. In your experience, is that harmful? We just do it a controlled exposure. For now, we're talking about those younger kids, and a lot of questions come. All of the audience here are saying, "Don't give it, don't give it," and these are all parents. But yet, when I went up to kids, all of them, the kids were like, "Why not? Why not? If it's controlled and it's at young age, why shouldn't we be able to see, and we're gonna learn?" So your response to that, ma'am?
Yeah, and I think it just depends on the group of kids you're asking. So I think you have to, if you ask a 2, 3-year-old, they're going to say, "Yeah, I want the toy at Target. I'm going to throw a fit until you get me that toy at Target." Now, an adolescent or pre-adolescent may have a little bit more voice or reason, and they are going through, abstract versus what we call in therapy concrete building of the thinking. So they're going to question you. They're going to want to build their own identity. I think so. My rule of thumb, being a parent and as a professional and personal, it's kind of like timeouts and negative versus positive reinforcements. I kind of lean on that as a mechanism. So if your kid is, under 5, maybe less than 5 hours of digital technology and the type of references they have. If they're, at a certain age group, which is pre-adolescence to adolescence, at least 3 to 4 hours if in a control setting is very reasonable.
It's reasonable.
Again, every family has their own value system, so those are the parameters
I
that
got
we
you.
have.
I got you. You've agreed on our point, whereas yet a vast majority of people think no, 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 we don't want to give any exposure. Whereas we
Oh,
think
sure.
it was just like we don't, parents don't want to give, but you agree if it's controlled, it's not harmful if you can control it if they're gonna get exposure. Let's go on to talk a little bit about the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kids now. A little
Hmm.
bit, they're just, I want to say they're just preteens.
You're right.
They're
The school years.
correct. You're just starting to go to school. We did
Hmm.
a local survey, 8 kids locally where I was. 4 of them were less than 10. Guess how many, Maya, had a phone with them? All of them had a phone. You're right. And an
Less
average
than
age when
10.
they were
Oh, less
start,
than age.
pardon me,
Oh, they're all less than 10.
they're all less than 10. And
Mm.
the youngest is about 6-ish. So, but 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, they're getting phones. That's the age now where a lot of kids are getting phones. For good or bad, I'm not arguing about that. The ones who don't have it, they feel neglected, they feel left out, and they're like, when you do window shopping and you go out and you want to look at clothes and or you look at something and they're looking at stuff and, oh, I wish I could have. That, that's what their feeling was. There was like, we feel left out. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling their feelings, what they are being exposed to. And the kid who has the phone is like the super kid. Everyone will be sort of like he's the master kid and he can attract all the people. He's the center of attention. He can show everyone I'm doing this, that. So we're factoring that in. And that's why this psychological impact of we as parents not realizing the kids are actually going in a very different direction. And are we aware this is going on? Now, having said that, I must say UX exposure England exposure, European exposure is probably a little bit different than exposure in other countries. And I got to give that. But our kids are equally exposed, and I'm talking about our kids, meaning Muslim kids as well, are very exposed to the media. So, quick question to Ms. Manhas again. I know we don't want to give phones, and we want to resist. And if I ask the audience again, they say, don't give it, don't give it, don't give it. What advice would you be now giving to the parents to them getting exposed to this so much? Are you in favor of not giving the phone? Or are you saying, no, you can give it, you have to control it? What would you suggest?
So, you know, I
Difficult
guess I'll
questions.
have
I'm
to
sorry.
include
It's going to be
very difficult. No,
it's going to be a
no.
hard talk today because the audience here want to know, and I want to rebuff them because I can live in a cuckoo world. I can live in a world where, I'm going to resist. I'm going to resist. And I'm going to come to that in a second, in the latter part, when we are resisting teens from not doing stuff. We're going to come to that discussion, and we got a little bit of a prep video for you as well. Being left out. Your thoughts, please.
So, you know, Dr. Khan, for me, and by the way, I don't mind the hard questions. I'm a therapist, so I get hard questions all day long.
Brilliant.
So this is a fun part of my job, to be honest with you. But I think for me, the question is, I think parents know your children. We had, again, a standard rule in our home where the kids didn't get a phone till 13. And yes, there was a lot of whining and a lot of, you know, I would say emotional, you know, kind of bandwidth, and even a little bit of manipulation, like where, you know, nobody's going to like us. What if our friends are all going on different things and we don't have that? I mean, you know, I think knowing your children is probably part of what we need to do, is to be able to expose your families and your children to what is healthy and what's not healthy. Now, you know, of course, like you said, we live in a very different social, psychosocial community than what we grew up with. So if you have to have a phone, and that's, you know, because you have parents working, which I can appreciate and empathize with, I think sometimes you can have a token economy, you know, like we're going to, you know, monitor your Wi-Fi if you have a certain amount of chores, you know, I mean, if your phone is being paid from out of your allowance, then you can get a phone. You know, you have to have some kind of system where a child can comfortably also, you know, grow and thrive in a social community. I mean, you know, if a child grows up and says to his boss, I want a promotion, and they just started a job, I mean, I can guarantee you most bosses are going to be like, you can leave my office. So, you know, you're also showing your children boundaries, right? You're showing them resiliency, that just because you want something, it doesn't have to be an instant gratification.
So
you have
true.
to work hard for it.
So true. So very good points. I think we both agree on that, probably okay to give. It's a restricted phone with some boundaries and limitations on it. I see a lot of the audience here disagree, say don't give, don't give, don't give. And let me ask the audience a little bit of a question about what
Actually,
do they
don't blame
think.
your audience. I mean, I was probably the bad mom who didn't get
That
the
is not
phone
the
until
bad mom.
13.
I tell you, we can. You're seeing these kids, the after effects of these, and from a
Absolutely.
practical point, and I can tell you as a physician as well, we are seeing the effects when it's too late, and they've already
Absolutely.
been traumatized. Or I don't want to use the harsh word as a traumatized being, but they have gone through which has not been a good experience, and the parents become bad parents. So it's sort of like an interesting debate, which we should be having a little openly. We can, and I see that some are saying no, give the phone with a password. Some are saying don't give a phone. We should give a phone. but I'm going to argue I have a
Certainly not a smartphone, not before the age of 10. I mean, you've got, maybe that could be your parameters. Like if you are choosing to give a phone for safety, maybe give a flip phone. I mean, that's why flip phones probably exist, that you resist something that has, a lot of technology like smartphones and Wi-Fi. And, I'll tell you, Dr. Khan, kids are smart. They are so smart. I mean, I have 13-year-olds who are like, oh, you don't know how to run your Instagram? I can help you with it. And, they're on it,
right,
like, and I learn from them all day. I mean, they're so, so smart. But
so
we have to redirect that energy in a healthy way too.
yeah, and I totally agree, and I agree with that. Uh, I can tell you though, in the next age group, we're going to talk about up to 15-year-olds and should we put restriction on the phone. The 10 and 15-year-olds, 16-year-old kids, and I'm telling you from the get-go, none of those kids have any restrictions on their phones right now. None whatsoever. You can argue whatever, and the audience can argue whatever they want to argue. I'm going to do this. I know my kids were up in the middle of the night. Their task, the two boys were up, and the task was ninja operation, how to bypass dad's Wi-Fi limitations and get to his phone and remove any restrictions. And every night they were up so they could play their game. So that's for them a ninja operation, by the way. So just, and it's brilliant, Menas, you've touched on the points that I think resonate with a lot of people, because I want them to hear your views, our views, and they can disagree. They can say, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do, and then we're going to come to what happens to when we restrict. So just specifically on kids that you see from 10 to 16, 15-year-olds, very, very fast growing, mentally growing age, demanding school tasks. Would you lift the lid up and say, hey, they can use the phone? Or what's your advice?
Yeah, I think Dr. Khan, it just again to me goes back to, and you're right, everybody has their own disagreement and agreements on this, because every family is different. But I think for me it goes back to know your children and know your child. You definitely sound like you have boys that are probably going to do great work in Silicon Valley one day.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you're already seeing a lot of their bright ideas and a lot of their creativity coming out. So, a lot of times if you know your child's creative, you've got to match up their energy a little bit. I'm not saying you're going to be 100% like them, but, the reason that I say know your child and know your limits and what works and what doesn't is because I can tell you that a blanket statement of, I will not let my child do this, and this is my way or the highway. And probably as we grew up as what we value and label as the third culture child, meaning the Muslim, American, Pakistani, or Arab, or Desi, family with different identifiers. The kids that are being born and raised in the U.S. and overseas or Canada and the UK, they don't identify with the same ideas,
Good point.
socially with parenting. So
Good
as
point.
third culture children, if you have this idea that it's my way or the highway, and what we call the authoritarian parent, the bossy parent,
Yeah,
your kids are probably going to resist you 1,000%. I can tell you that.
I agree. I totally agree. That's actually a brilliant point. I think you brought up a very nice point in saying that you're gonna have to look at what works in different cultures. Media and social media gadgets may in one culture be far ahead and moving in a different direction than another culture, where there are more values, there is changes going on, and so, for example, restrictions. We see in Saudi Arabia right now a lot of different sort of changes going on, restrictions being lifted, new exposures. They're getting different sort of exposures versus other countries which have already a lot of other exposure, and a lot of their stuff is done on phones. Their kids start arguing that our tasks and assignments are being given on the phone as well. So we're going to have to factor that in. And I think that you have a brilliant point. Look at what your cultural norms are and have a look at this. I'm going to we got an excellent video for you next, and we really want to share this and get your thoughts on this, and see what
Sure.
you think. Pardon? So let's just play. Let's just see if we can play this.
Hey everybody, I'm out here, it's Sunday, it's sunny, nice day, but you know what, I got some other issues I'm going to address today. My son Logan, who is 13 going on 14, has decided in the last couple months that he doesn't want to do his chores. He hasn't been cleaning his room like he's been told, taking out the trash, doing the dishes, you know, putting it in his part. So what I have here in my hands is his modded Xbox, and I've decided it's going to go bye-bye today. I'm tired of
Don't do that! That costs a lot of money!
I don't care.
No!
Sorry.
Don't do that! No,
Sorry.
stop! Stop! Run! Stop! Where are all my games? No Dead Rising, no Crackdown, Halo!
What the hell is going on? Oh no.
Insane! What are you gonna mow them over? Yeah, I'm gonna mow them over. That way you get out of your room for a little while. Maybe you'll get a job. You've been out of school 3 months now. Gaming is gonna be my job. Well, I do it. I'm really good at it. You're not destroying my game. Oh, pick up what you can. Pick up what you can. Please don't mow them over. This cost me like hundreds of dollars. It's an expensive hobby. I don't care. What is this achieve? What is this achieve? What does that achieve what? What is this gonna do? Mowing my games over. Maybe you'll quit playing for a while, get a job, pay some of your bills.
Dad, what the hell do you want? You need to look at this. It's important. Don't you say I'm doing something? Yeah, I know, but you need to look at this. No. You need to look at this. You need to look at what she did. You know what? How she broke the vase. You know what? Let me see. Let me see that. Let me see that. Let me see that. Dad! Stop! Stop! Excuse. When I tell you, get that shit out of here. Get that shit out of here.
That was sort of like excellent work by the social media team, Rida, Hamza, and Hafsa and stuff. Believe it or not, I can very easily relate. Yes, I have boys. I have a girl as well. I'm telling you, it's not just the boys, but even my friends right now have done something similar. And if I tell you, some of them have even done more to try to stop the kids when they have been in that sort of age group. Typically, it's 14, 15, 16 plus age, 14, 15, 16, up to 18. And even tried to manhandle, tried to yell. There were some other videos as well, which had a lot of profanity, a lot of F words. So we had to just cut that out just to make it decent for the audience. We don't want to get to this stage. And kids are gaming a lot. Every kid has an addiction right now. And it's across the board. It's across the board right now. We are in an age where we are seeing 26, 27, 30-year-old gamers playing games regularly. They claim it's an anti-anxiety therapy for them. Give us your view on this. And again, from clinical aspect, when you are giving therapy to families especially, and dads, all of them seem like dads here who were after their kids. I didn't see, so first one was the mom frustrated, and then I saw another actually video of a mom with a daughter throwing away her phone and saying, I've had enough of your social media. And the boys is always about your gaming, kids dropping off from school, doing all sort of stuff, not cleaning themselves, playing on video games for like 14, 15 hours. What are you seeing with the Muslim kids or general kids and then the Muslim kids, and where are we in this situation?
Well, I can tell you, thank you for that question, Dr. Khan. I can tell you that within the last 10 years in a clinical practice, that the kids are much more depressed than anxious. Now, if some of them are using that gaming or digital usage as a scapegoat or even some kind of a pathway to find some kind of, healing. I mean, think about just the nature of gaming. It's a very, creative, mindless activity, right? It's kind of like watching TV. For some people, Netflix and chill, that whole idea, it's quite true. But, human beings need a little bit more, energy mechanically and neurologically to be able to thrive. So yes, for some people, it might be a form of escape or even therapy. But I can tell you that the reduction that we see in actual therapeutic clinical efficacy, so people actually go into therapy and get actual vitamin D from walking or physical activity or even connections with other human beings, is much more powerful and much more expansive for a quality of life.
Excellent.
So, for people who spend so much time digitally, you can see that, their depressions are going to be quite high. Even when they leave that screen, at some point they have to go eat, they have to go use the bathroom, they have to try to get food or sustenance. I mean, their quality of life is quite diminished.
Sure.
They may not have a way to connect with other people. They may have a hard time with interpersonal relationships, like a relationship like marriage or raising a family, but again, we're looking at the dynamics of some families and qualities of life for people really changing in that.
Do you use the negotiation tactics a lot? Would you be using it for the 16, 18-year-olds, saying, we give you some and we take some? Knowing that the kids at that age now don't listen to their mothers and actually have seen instances where they have bitten, they have actually thrown a punch, physically manhandle, and they wanted their ways. How do you negotiate with teenagers in that group?
Yeah, I think, Dr. Khan, I have to say, and I'm sure you can attest to this and agree with this as a physician, is, that crosses a line of boundary and even violence, like biting your parents or throwing things at them or, threatening them. I mean, that crosses a boundary, which unfortunately, in the Muslim, third culture experiences, sometimes we minimize boundaries and we think, oh, that's such an American or Westernized idea. But the truth is, discipline goes in hand with boundaries, right? So if you have consequences that you have to set for your child or parameters, I mean, I've asked parents over the years that if your child's becoming that addictive or violent, you have the right to take away their phone, or they have to earn that money. And I can tell you that if you're earning money to pay for your phone, there's going to be a lot of kids who are not going to go for that concept. But parents have to also be consistent with setting limits and consistency with
Minas,
boundaries.
I know for sure a friend of mine pays an average of about $700 on his kids' gaming.
Oh my goodness.
And he nicks the money, and he somehow.
So we're enabling them too, right? On top of that.
Well, I can see where the mother is coming from. She's in the physician category. She is actually now scared of the kid, and would negotiate that on certain levels. You're gonna do this, because he would threaten, I'm not going to school. I'm just not gonna go. You do whatever. It's because the kids are very smart. They know how to manipulate. I know another.
Absolutely.
I know another parent who was actually physically fighting with the kid. He was a boxer. My friend is a boxer, so he's very good. But now he was all right when the kid is 14, but turned 17. He's now taller than dad, and he's gonna say, if you're gonna box, I'm gonna box back. And they had boxing episodes, a couple of them. And over what? Gaming. Grades, gaming, discussion on school. Please don't stay up late night. I've had another brilliant response from one of the members here was saying, I negotiated with my kids. They're, let's say, 14. We wrote a contract. You're going to play this many hours. You're going to keep it. And 2 weeks or 3 weeks down the road or a month down the pipeline, I can't negotiate anymore with them. So isn't it wise we become friends with them? Or is that even a strategy where parents play with the kids, try to share their feelings? Or what do we do? What is your, again, what's your experience on this?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you this, Dr. Khan. I mean, it is quite rare that a child attacks their parents out of violence. So I don't know if they've learned violence in that home as a currency or modeled that behavior, unfortunately. And that's true. If they see a lot of aggression, think about it like somebody who's diabetic. I mean, they're not, a lot of times there's a genetic predisposition to something like heart disease or diabetes. So if you have a pre-existing issue and then you compound it with something like social media or digital, lack of boundaries, and then, all of a sudden you say you're gaming too much and you got to go to school on time. I mean, that kind of system is probably going to fail very quickly. So I think that before you even start the call of digital kind of, boundaries, I think you start with those contracts then. This is our family's values. We're going to expect you to be on the phone, but if your grades start slipping, then your phones are going to be taken away.
Brilliant.
And kids are, if you're doing a lot of prevention ahead of time, imprinting,
very good point.
in therapy, we call it implanting those ideas ahead of time.
Excellent.
Listen, parents don't value this, but, kids listen to you more than they listen to me or anybody else in their world. I mean, the grand plan from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, children come from parents and they're more likely to adapt to their parents if they actually imprint and implant those ideas ahead of time. If you're ripping the bandage off after the infection, I mean, you're looking at the infection just increasing.
I think you bring up a very excellent point. Early on, implant the idea of rules and boundaries. You
Absolutely.
stick by them. If we as parents,
and you model them, right?
If we as parents stick to them, they will stick to them as well. But if you want to go on your phone and think that the kids are going to go or not going to go, then it becomes literally impossible. So I see of all this discussion and whatever from whatever age group we've discussed, your point at the end is like, hey, implant those rules from an early age, because if you are not doing that, don't try to force it on the at the back end. Would that be a correct statement?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. We have to do prevention, like education ahead of time. Like if you're thinking of getting your child a phone by the age of 10, let's say, that's your house rule, then maybe by the time they're 8 or 9, you start talking about the importance of values such as having a phone and what it means to have a phone. And, once you buy a phone, what that responsibility looks like and what the consequences look like.
A question has come up in the discussion. When can you identify there is addiction now to a phone or gaming? Would you please be kind enough to just explain that to the audience?
Absolutely. I think similarly to what you're describing, a child who has a hard time parting away from their device, like they will not put their phone down or out of their room to be able to let it charge outside of their rooms. Let's say that they get violent or extreme in their behaviors, or they get depressed or anxious because they're away from their phone or devices. That to me would border on something like dependency or addictions. Obviously, boundaries and rules, like a child becomes attacking of their parents, I mean, that is not healthy.
Brilliant. I think that was really, really excellent. That's why we had, it was very enlightening just hearing your views, how you're sort of balancing out all of these difficult, tricky trenches. And a lot of the
It's definitely very tricky, I have to say, to give your audience and the family struggling. It is a tricky rope. It's gonna take some creative tools for us to be able to parent children in
we
the
are
digital age.
we are going to be discussing in our next episode about the question that has come up is, should there have been legislation about teaching social media in schools, colleges, and universities? So that's going to be our next week's sort of discussion, and it sort of sums up what you have nicely explained right at the end: prevention, education, early values, building a culture, and that's going to help. I don't think we trying to police the kids is going to help. We got to play.
Absolutely
We
not.
certainly got a role to play. We certainly got to bring up those restrictive measures or identify them. And like what you said, identify when they are addicted to stuff, when they're not going to school, when their grades are behind, when they're not looking after their personal hygiene, when they are not neglecting their chores, their responsibilities. But there's got to be steps before, and I think there's going to have to be some collective responsibilities as well. So brilliant discussion. I really loved it. Unfortunately, we're almost an hour, and we're going to have to stop, and we value your time. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Ms. Banas, coming on and bringing up a
Thank you so much.
brilliant discussion. Any message to the final or to the viewers? We've already discussed how you founded the MAPS. It's an it's a would you want to tell the audience about it a little bit, what it is?
Sure.
And
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Dr. Khan. So MAPS, we start for Muslim Association for Psychological Services, and I was one of the co-founders. That was passion project that we did about 6 years ago to introduce the community to mental health professionals. I myself was on a lonely island for a long time, didn't know any other Muslim therapists about 15 years ago. So it has been a journey. It has been a journey to see the community grow and kids grow. So certainly one of the lasting messages that I would have professionally and personally is, really know your kids and really, have compassion for yourself, but also for your child. Because just like you're thinking that they're just rebelling you to rebel you because they're just being angry or they don't want to listen to you, the truth is, I think they're also trying to understand their role and their own identities in a social media age. And, understanding yourself and your child can be a very, very powerful thing in healing and also helping you navigate the journey of parenting in the digital age for sure.
excellent. That's really brilliant. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time, and appreciate you coming
My
on the
pleasure.
show.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So just on a last note, we had responses, brilliant responses from last week. All of you wrote excellent. The panel sort of decided on one of them being the best presenter, and that one would go to Mariam Shabazz, where she talked about stresses can disturb life in many ways in children's. She broke it down to who is at school doing well, chronic illnesses. So she's going to be she's sort of like the winner for last week. Next week's question is, why do parents need to be updated about technology, and do they need to understand the kids more? Should they be playing? Should we change our approach? And I think that's next week's question. Thank you very much for all of you being on board with us and interacting and giving us your valuable feedback. It's been a very entertaining sort of session for us. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.